Hey, Mr. Pond Boss, tell me what to do to make all my Lunker Lake dreams come true.
Hello everybody, Bob Lust, the Pond Boss, coming at you live from where we're hanging out here finally at the house. So just walked through the door not long ago and just pulled up a chair and got ready to do this thing. So here we go. Just got back from a fun road trip and I was going to talk about that. So let's see here. You can add up to 3 guests. Oh, I didn't know I could have guests. That's pretty cool. They changed all that. Hello, Danny Mac. I see you reacting to this thing here. So I'm going to scroll down here and see if I can find it. Oh, there it is right there. Nope, that isn't it. That's last week. So I've had a fun road trip the last few days with Debbie. And so I want to talk about that and share that with you guys because there were some pretty interesting pond things that I got to see, which is kind of typical with what I do. So let's see here. Good evening. Good evening, everybody. Hello, Mike Cottrell, Drew Buchanan, Jim Allen. Good to see you, Jim. I need to call you one of these days. I'm kind of funny about stuff, Jim. I owe you a little bit of an apology because I know I need to call you so we can work on that spreadsheet some more. But what I do is my little brain right here is like a filing cabinet. And in that filing cabinet, I keep boxes. So I'll open a box, I'll take a box out, open it, and then start doing everything that's in that box. And then I'll keep all the other boxes off in the filing cabinet out of my mind for a little bit until I finish that box, put the lid on it, put it back in, and get another box. So it's not that I don't want to do more. It's just that I just ain't there sometimes. So hey, you guys know the drill. Hashtag Pond Boss Magazine in the comments section. Click like, share this to your timeline, and you're eligible for a drawing for a Pond Boss hat and whatever else that we've got in the office that I don't go to much anymore. Hey, 35 bucks a year right there. So if Pond Boss, 1 year, you guys know the drill here. You know exactly what I'm going to say. You can say it with me. $35 a year, cheaper than a Friday night date, and it lasts a year, and it's full of nuggets, full of all kinds of good stuff that you guys can learn from. So let me click on this, see if I can blow it up. Oh, there it is. Now I can see everybody's comments. Woohoo, there we go. Danny Mac, James Allen, Drew Bachman from the South, South Carolina. Mike Cottrell, good to see Mike from Bubba Lusk. Hey, cuz, how you doing, brother? I saw that picture of y'all's family get together. Holy cow. Alan and Teresa are kind of directly responsible for like half the population of Mineral Wells, Texas. That's pretty dang cool. Hello, Michael Eric from Iowa. David Schneiderman, Easy Docks of Texas, checking in from Hearst, America. Bob watched the video, Men's Brain in Women. Oh, boy, you better give me a little more, be more specific on that, and I'll sure look at it. Troy Todd, good to see you, man. There's Dustin checking in with Pristine Pond Solutions. Good deal. Hey, you know what? While I'm thinking about you, Dustin, Debbie wanted me to promote the Institute of Higher Pondology, which is going to be October 27, 28, 29. I have found a very cool ranch down near Brenham, Texas. So it's not too far for you to come. And I've got about 6 people signed up for it so far, and I've got room for 12. So it's $1,500, but I promise you it's worth it. The majority of that money is going to hard costs. You know, the lodging at $150 a night, food for $80 a day, stuff like that. So for those of you guys, now I had a guy show some interest today. I'm going to talk to you about that property here in a minute. But the Institute of Higher Pondology in person at a ranch that's got 3 lakes on it, or 2 lakes and a pond. We're going to do a lot of hands-on stuff. We're going to have classroom time. We're going to discuss, you know, all the different tenants in detail. Plus, if you come to this live Institute of Higher Pondology, that gets you a free ticket to the online version of the Institute of Higher Pondology, which costs $500. You know, so I'd love to get just a handful more people. I like it to be a small crowd so we can get a lot of hands-on, you know, electrofishing, weigh and measure fish, vegetation identification. I've got at least 3 speakers lined up so far. I'm hoping to get a 4th one. He just doesn't know it yet. He might watch this show tonight, but I won't call him out because I hadn't called him yet. Hello, Brad Cates. And anyway, Dustin, you'd be a good candidate for that. You really would, because that would give you a much deeper understanding about the things that you haven't done yet with your pond stuff. And Pristine Pond Solutions over there in South Louisiana, which I know you travel everywhere. John Funk from Mid-Michigan. Monty Waddell from Western Illinois. Good to see you. John Funk knows the deal. Hashtag Pond Boss Magazine. Men's brains versus women's brains. It explains men's mental boxes. A huge laugh. Yeah, I'll do that while I'm driving. Well, Chris Ketchum from Bells, Texas. Hadn't seen you in a while. Good to see you, buddy. Leah Groons. Hey, you know what, Leah? I got an email today from somebody in Pawhuska, Oklahoma, that they're going to build a pretty nice lake and would like to talk about habitat. So I might be strolling back up through your part of the country before long. Sorry for the comment spam. I don't know what that is. Gig 'em, boss. Attaboy. I love that. Way to go. So you know what? I've taken a really cool road trip, and some of this is going to pertain to you and your ponds, I promise. So Debbie and I, you know, we spend so much time with midgets, you know, little bitty grandkids, that every once in a while we really like to have some adult time. So Debbie said, you know what, we really need to do a road trip. So I said, you know, I'm all over that. She said, put one together. So I did, and I called a good long-time friend and pond management client, Pond Boss subscriber, Todd Hill from Childress, Texas, via Amarillo, Texas. And Todd's got about a 15 or 16 acre lake built in a canyon. They're south of Childress, Texas, in the Badlands. It's down red country, jippy water. You know, the water's struggling. And I'll hear from him, I don't know, 7 or 8 times a year. He'll text me, it's okay to fertilize now. Here's what my water looks like. The bass weigh this much. What do I need to do? You know, and so he kept saying, you know what? Why don't you guys come to Childress and let's have a little time together, and we'll cook a steak and have a little fun and drink a whole lot of wine. Well, I'm kind of up for that. So I called Todd because I'd been working to help design a lake for a local physician there in Childress who's building a really nice lake probably 2 miles from Todd's place. So I called Dustin Pratt there, who's a longtime Pond Boss subscriber, and said, hey, you know what? I really need to come look at your lake one more time before the water really starts to fill it up, to make sure that you and I are on the same page for the habitat design for that lake. Now, I don't know how big that lake's going to be, because he hasn't really shot the water line yet, you know, because he's almost to that point, but I got a feeling it's going to be 18, 20, 22 acres. So it's going to be a really nice lake. And there'll be some depth, but there'll be some shallow water as well. So I knew it would be good to go take a look at that. So then I've got another client that I designed a very cool small pond, like 2 acres. They're south of Floydada, Texas, northeast of Lubbock. Now this man he's a Rick Canup, who owns the Coldwell Banker real estate company there in Lubbock, does commercial and residential real estate. He wanted to build a kind of a refuge hunting, fishing place, hideaway out in off the Cap Rock in the canyons, so he could just take his grandkids, his kids, and great-grandchildren. He's got a 37-year-old grandson that has got like 3 or 4 daughters that are 4 to 7 years old. So he wanted to build a place. So he built a pretty cool, almost kidney-shaped, curved-shaped 2-acre pond down there in that canyon where the soils are sandy. Well, in that part of Texas, there are playa lakes up on top of above the canyons, and they irrigate and farm in that part of the country. But those playa lakes have clay basins, so he was able to go grab some clay from a playa lake just right there on the same property and line this pond built by Joe Martz. Joe Martz is an outstanding earth mover who lives in Post, Texas. You know, and so then got to spend a little time with him yesterday, taking a look at his pond, and then we spent time at the Williams Ranch today, northeast of Post, where David Williams and his right-hand man Carson came in and renovated this pretty nice lake, 14, 15-acre lake. They turned it into a 17-acre lake. So I'm going to talk to you about every one of those projects here, plus I'm going to be able to answer some of your questions. So let's see. Let me see who's going on. Tommy Welsh, yes, I got your pond videos last night about 10:30 at night, but I only had one eye open, so I didn't watch them. And then this morning, I met with a ranch owner, and which was 4 hours from here, and we just got home in time to do this show, so I'll certainly watch it. Christopher Aguilar, the Boudin man from down there, Lake Charles, Louisiana. Good to see you. Mark Dyer. Leah, would love to have you stop over. You know what? I would take time. Have Scott email me, boblusk@outlook.com or info@pondboss.com. Actually, info@pondboss.com is a better one, because that way Leanne will see it in the office and she'll make sure that I don't miss it. Because like when I'm traveling, oh my gosh, I can tell you how many times I'll get an email and not see it. Dick Tabbert, good to see you, brother. Todd Austin. Chris is, hey, Chris Blood, greetings from Punta Cana, Dominican Republic. Fish on. Atta boy. Chris Blood from Texas Hunter Products. And if you know, I do the commercial around 7, but since Chris is on now, I want to tell you, take some time to look at Texas Hunter Products. They've got deer blinds, deer feeders, they've got fish feeders, they've got the new thing they got going is they've got fish habitat. So they have fish attractors, and one of the cool things about what Texas Hunter's got going on with their fish attractors is they're filling a niche that's in between the niche of the other companies. So there's other companies that have pretty cool fish attractors, like Mossback, for example, and American Fish Tree, which he watches the show sometimes on Wednesday nights. So check out their Texas Hunters product lines and just take a look and see what you think. Look at there, John White, first time viewer. Glad you're here, brother. Michael Gray, I know Michael Gray. The sun is up. He's in a machine somewhere. He's either hammering rock, digging a core trench, or he's shoving dirt so he can build something pretty cool over there outside of Nashville, Tennessee. Hello, Billy Bates. Good to see you. How's everything in Maryland? Good to see you. Mike Fornash, good to see you. So, here we go. There's John Moore from Kentucky. Good to see him. I guess KY stands for Kentucky and not a lubricant. I'm not even tipsy and I said that. All right, so let's talk a little bit about pond stuff. If you got questions, bring them to me and we'll talk about it. So my first stop was at Dustin Pratt's lake that's in process right now. Now I started talking to Dustin a little over a year ago. And actually, I started talking to Dustin about 5 years ago, and he says, Bob, when I get the chance and I'm able to kind of conjure up the money and get the property like I want it, I want to build a really nice lake. And I said, Dustin, when you're ready, just give me a ring. So he rang me about 2 years ago. He says, you know, I'm getting really closer to doing this lake, so can you help? I said, sure, happy to help. So then a little over a year ago, he called me and says, hey, I'm ready to pull the trigger, so we need to do some planning. He said, I've been talking to a local earth mover that's built a number of dams, and I want to visit with you and really, really hammer out this habitat plan that we need. So I said, okay, and the way Jim Allen, dude, hey, you get the quote of the day, brother. And we Kentucky folks spell lubricant bourbon. Makes me wish I'd have poured some into this glass, but I didn't. So I love that. That's a great comment. Way to go, dude. Let's see. Christopher Aguilar needs flying fish to eat the mosquitoes. Try some dragonflies. They're pretty good. So anyway, as I was talking to Dustin about his lake project, I knew that he'd been a subscriber for a long time. He's been to several Pond Boss conferences. He came to the first one we had at Big Cedar Lodge, which is probably 2009, 10 through there somewhere. So he's a really, really avid student of this stuff. So I thought, you know what, I really need to get over there before they start building the dams. So I called him up. This was probably 8 months ago. And he said, let me come down there and let's take a look at it. So I hustled over there and rode around on his side-by-side, saw where he wanted to build the dam, which was a great place. Now the thing about that part of the planet is they have a lot of transitional soils, even though they've got a lot of clay. So you got to have an earth mover that can read the dirt. So if you're getting ready to build a lake out there, I'm going to tell you, you need to have somebody that knows how to read the dirt. What I mean by that is, and Michael Gray, he's sitting there chomping at the bit to talk, and I wish he could. So, but I know what Michael would say. He says, he would say, you got all kinds of dirt. You know, some dirt holds water, some dirt doesn't. Some dirt seeps, some dirt seeps less. Heavy on that word less. All dirt seeps. Mike Otto taught me that lesson a long time ago. All dirt leaks, seeps some. You know, and so, but you got to have enough clay, but not too much clay, to mix with some of the other native soils to process them where they're compactable. So I knew that Dustin was going to need to get his earth mover out there to dig a few test holes, which they did, and they found that there was plenty of clay in a pretty close proximity. Now the other issue is he was going to build on a watershed that's actually a pretty big canyon. So that watershed was feeding probably, and I did the math on it, and I don't remember what it was, but I know it was in excess of 300 acres. So you get a 4-inch rain on 300 acres, you better have a dam big enough that you can land an airplane on and have a spillway wide enough that the water can escape without your fish escaping. So we had to talk about the dam. He had his brain wrapped around that really, really well. And so we started looking at the lay of the land. Now, the first thing I do when I'm looking at a site for a fish habitat plan is to see the way the land lays. Well, when you're building it in a canyon, you got a whole lot of this. You know, and one of the big limiting factors in a fishing lake is having spawning areas where fish can reproduce, especially bluegills for largemouth bass, because they are the backbone of the food chain. So as we drove around the site, I said, okay, Dustin, one of the next things you need to do is figure out your proposed water line, then have your earth mover and his guys flag the water line so we can have some idea of that horizontal look as to where the water line is going to be, so we can start judging what's going to be below the water line and above the water line. So the second trip I made out there, they'd started coring the dam to get ready to build the dam, and they'd flagged the water line. And then it started to really pop, and he could see it. He could see the areas where he could build some very cool spawning beds. So using a skid steer, part of the mission was to find water that was going to be 3 feet deep to 5 feet deep, get some smooth shelves about as big as a pickup truck. That's the analogy that I use, compare it to a pickup truck. And then lay down some shade cloth, Geotech cloth, and put pea gravel on top of it. Well, on this site, Dustin found 15 to 20 spots that were going to be 3 feet to 5 feet, even down to 6 feet. Now you might ask, why do you want the varying depths? Well, because in that part of Texas, they have this thing called summer. And water evaporates. So when that water evaporates, you want to be able to have spawning beds that are at least 2 to 3 feet deep. So that's why you build them at varying levels. Well, I went back to look at it, and he's done a fantastic job on the spawning beds.